Hi fellas, today I want to talk about functions in C++ and what are functions in C++? Well, functions are code blocks, pieces of logic that you write once and can reuse multiple times throughout your program. And this is actually very convenient when you think about it, because there are many cases when you need to perform the same task multiple times in your program, but rewriting the same code would be very inefficient and inconvenient. So functions just solve that problem, and you create them once but can reuse them many times, as many as you want, so that's the main purpose of functions in C++. Now, how do you start creating a function in C++? Well, you start by declaring its return type. What does that mean, right? Well, you see, every function in C++ returns a value to the place where it was called in the code, and you need to declare the data type of that value when creating your function. The main return types are void, int, string, double, float, bool, and char. So let's start with the function of type void. The void keyword means that the function will not return anything to the place where it was called. Instead, it will just perform some work inside it and display some results on the screen. After declaring the return type of your function, you give it a name. And to avoid errors, you start the name of your function with a character or an underscore. Then you can use letters, underscores, or digits. Also avoid special symbols, spaces, and C++ keywords like int, main, or while, etc. And also remember that C++ is a case-sensitive language, which means that when you create a name, then you call it, but you just accidentally type one letter as a capital version of that letter, C++ will read it as a totally different function name. So I will call my function canDrive. canDrive. It will check if a user is allowed to drive. After creating a name for your function, you open brackets and then you can put something in there, and that something is actually a parameter, and a parameter is a variable that accepts a value into your function for later use. So when you call your function, you open brackets and you can put something in there, and that value that you put there is assigned to the parameter that you created before that, right? And then the function can work with that value to output different results. So functions are, in some sense, have the same structure, but also they are flexible enough to provide different results, and that's actually very cool. So in my case, let's create a function called a parameter called age. And when you create a parameter as any function in C++, not function, a variable, as any variable in C++, you need to declare its data type. So I will say int and call the parameter age, because it will accept age of the user to use that in my code block. So after creating a parameter for your function, you just create the code block for it for your whole function. And in my case, I will just use if statements to check if the user is allowed to drive or not, is if he or she is old enough to drive. All right, so let's do it. Now let's call our function. And before that, I want to accept the user's data about their age, and I will create a function about that, right? Not a function, but a variable of type int. So int, I will call it user age, and now I will ask them for their age. And now when I call our function, I put our variable called user age in the brackets, so that variable is assigned to age, which is used in the code block of our function, and it will help us to understand if the user is allowed to drive or not. So I just type user age in the brackets. Also, don't forget about semicolon when you call your function. So now I will just run our program and we will see how it works. So let's do that. So here I will enter my age. So let's say I'm 9 years old and I click enter. And I see you're not allowed to drive. Okay, let's run it again. And this time I will put something like 16. Alright, 16. And I click enter, and this, it says you are allowed to drive, and it's pretty cool. So it's pretty much for today about functions in C++. I hope you liked this video and enjoyed it. See you later.